All right. Good morning, Simi.
Good morning, Nato. Thanks for making this happen.
Absolutely. Thank you for joining me. When I heard about you a couple of weeks ago from Oluwatosin of Money Africa, I was really excited to hear that a woman was running for office. And so I thought that I'd really want to support you, but also hear your story about how you got into politics and why you're running for office. So if you don't mind, just, tell me really quickly, how did you get interested in politics?
Well, my interest actually is in governance, or like where my passion, everything is about governance, right? And so, okay, I always say that the only difference, or I say, and I believe it with everything in me, that the only difference between the poor and the rich should be luxury. It should not be basic education. Let it be that the rich person can wake up and decide to buy what $500,000 watch, or jump on a yacht, but it should not be. Everyone should have access to good quality education. Everyone should have access to basic good healthcare. All of those. That should never be what differentiates the poor from the rich. But that's what we have now. I mean, if you're poor, you can't get good education. If you're poor, you can't move on. And it's a positive feedback mechanism. Like, it just keeps happening. And because you're poor, you're most likely going to remain poor just because you don't have access to the things that can lift you from poverty. Like, that's always been me. That's been what has been driving me since forever, like ever since all my life, really, that's it. So I started working in the nonprofit sector, back from 2003. I was still in secondary school. Then I started volunteering with local nonprofits. I grew up in Osun State and Oyo. But then, so after school, I founded a nonprofit of my own, Aspirant Foundation. And they still do that. So I resigned December to fully focus on politics and all. So Aspirant is we're interested in economic empowerment, but using technology and also governance, but from the end of increasing citizen participation in governance. So we used to do a lot of work in that end. And we had done work across 23 states, right? And we've always focused at the grassroots, trying to get young people, trying to get citizens at the grassroots to, demand accountability from government. But, all of that experience just showed me that, you can't demand accountability from people who are determined not to be accountable, from people who are determined to rule with impunity. There can only be, no matter how much you demand for it, if that supply doesn't exist, it's two sides of a coin. It's just law of demand and supply. Yeah, you can't, no matter how much you demand for something, if the supply isn't there, it just isn't there. So I mean, it was those things like, well, we need people who will be on the other end of the divide, who are ready to supply good governance to people. So there's, no matter how much noise people make, even if we end up realizing, I used to say that, the people don't realize the power that they have, which is still true. But no matter how much power you have, if the people on the other end are just determined that no, because of the way our society is already skewed, it just won't happen. So that was it. And then I talked about our projects where we do technology. I mean, I have a project called Coders, where we train young women on software development, design, data science, and all of that. And we have 4 academies. There's Abuja, Kaduna, Niger, and Abeokuta. Our Abeokuta Academy is the biggest one we have. And why? Because we met one person in government. We're introduced to the essay on ICT to the governor. And I'm like, this is what we do. I'm like, okay, this is a great idea. Come, let's explore bringing it to Ogun State. In less than a month of meeting this person and having the first conversation, he had gotten an MOU signed for us with the government, giving us a facility to use. And compared to in the other academies we set up, it was a struggle, just even get the facility to use to recruit people. But with him, it was so fast. And then they helped with the recruitment. In Abeokuta, we have the capacity to train 200 people every year. We always end up with like 150 young women every year. In our other academies, maybe we do 60, or at best case scenario, 100 per year. But see, that was what the difference in having one decent person in government did. So we're able to scale our impact. So it was those two things. I mean, I'd always thought of it, but it was just finally those two things. Like, there's really so much those of us in the nonprofit sector and even the private sector can do if we don't have the right set of people in government. And if that was just for me in the streets, and I got angry, like, why is it always the worst of us ruling us? Why is the people who don't have any idea, who don't have ethics, who don't have anything? And like, we can't keep going this way. So it was just a mix of all of that. And I just got too angry at the state of things, like the impunity, the suffering, everything. Like, nah. I think the day I finally made the decision was the 2019 elections when Buhari came in for his second. Like, that was the turning point. Like, nah, we're going to get into this space and we're going to try and see what we can do. And that was just how I made the switch. Okay. We're going to make the switch from being from the NGO end to the GO end. So I switched. Yeah. And really, if you're going to get into government, you have two approaches. It's either you're going as a public servant, you're going through the civil service, or you're going as an elected or appointed official. I mean, the civil service wasn't an option, right? Yeah. There's a long, so like, okay, absolutely. The fastest way is to going through either being appointed or being elected. And I was going to go into just try and let's get elected. And that was it. So I joined the PDP in 2019. My work mainly then was, I had been working at the national, I'd done quite a lot. So because I came with an approach of, I wanted to serve, I wanted to help make the party better. I wanted to help other young people and women to come into the space. So like within the space of 2 years or so, I was already serving on national committees. I was on the national convention, on the national organizing committee for the convention we had last year. I've served on 2 campaign councils for different states. I sit on the strategic committee for the PDP e-registration that's going on. So all of that, because I've been dedicated to opening up the space for young people and for women and to just helping the party do better. So I started doing that, but then come 2020, so I actually was thinking I would run in Abuja, right? But after I started speaking with other young people in politics, I'm like, babe, you just have to go home. The way our country is set up, I knew it, but I was just like wishful thinking. Like I knew I didn't want to accept the fact, so I had to accept it that they will tell you this is not your land.
This is not your land, exactly.
At first, I was still thinking I'll run in Osun State, where my mom is from and where I grew up, right? I did my primary school in Osun State, that's where we live, and then we also have a house in Oyo State. But someone told me that, see, they're going to ask you one day, where's your father's house?
That's right.
Father here in this land, so I had to go back to Ekiti, where my dad is from, and it was a very interesting journey for me because my family has left Ekiti State.
Wow, okay.
If you say had left, now that I'm back, my family is back here. So like my grandmother has bought her burial plot in Oyo in Ibadan. That's to show you how much we had left. So even if she's not getting buried in her town, all my dad and his siblings, everyone had left. We had nothing back. So I literally came back 2020 and started building my base from the scratch, got the place here, started connecting with the people, doing a few social impact projects. Yeah, for me, it was 2 things. It was both politics and then just giving back to my hometown. And it was, they will help each other, however it will happen, but I was focusing on both. So even if I didn't get elected, I was going to just, all these things I've been doing in other locations via my non-profit organization. Then I said, okay, let me do a bit of it as a person in my state. So yeah, that was how the journey started. I came back 2020 to my state, started working with party members, started attending meetings, meeting leaders, and up till now, that's still the journey we're on.
That's impressive. Your passion is so palpable, and I'm really impressed by the work that you've done over the last few years to really go down to the grassroots, to build that base. And obviously, you've done a lot of work in the non-profit sector, had some success, and you're now trying to transition into the government side of things. So tell me a little bit more about the office you're running for and why you think it's the right office that can bring forward the ideas that you have, and what that process has been like for you.
Okay, so I'm running for the House of Assembly, so that's the state legislature. So my LGA has 2 state constituencies. So I'm running to represent the Ikere. So I'm from Ikere local government. It's the 2nd largest LGA in Ekiti State. Ado is the largest, and Ikere. So I'm going to represent Ikere constituency 2 in the state assembly. Ideally, if I was going to talk about, my experience, my skills, the kind of person where I would best make a difference, it would be the House of Representatives. But you have to start from somewhere.
Indeed.
I definitely do not have the network or the pockets to sustain. And look at the fact that also I literally just started, so I didn't have that too. But for me, it's always going to be about the legislative office. I don't have it, at least up to now, I don't have any interest in the executive offices. I'm very particular about policies in our laws. I feel like the legislative arm of government, they are the true custodians of democracy. They're literally the ones who determine how the affairs of the country go. So if we have a good legislature, we can, the executive is usually just one or two people, but the people in the legislative offices are the ones that can truly make a difference. But we don't have a lot of policy people going into that space. So that's why I'm particular about the legislative office. And like I said, I'm just very interested in policy making. So the journey so far. I used to live in Abuja. So my nonprofit was in Abuja. I run a consulting company as well. All of that was mainly in Abuja. But January, I literally packed up my life. I left my apartment, everything, and moved down to Ekiti. So since beginning of February, I've been fully resident in Ekiti, Nikere.
Wow. So that's some commitment, Simi.
Yeah, I was like, I'm going to get this thing done. Like I'm determined to put everything I can into this. Whatever it takes legally and ethically, I'm ready to put into it. So yeah, I opted and left Abuja, just moved my entire life down here. I resigned. I resigned from my role as executive director of Aspirant Foundation. So I resigned from that. There were some other jobs I had as well. So I basically just took a 6 months sabbatical for myself. I figured January to June. So I dropped everything. Let me just focus on this. I said June also because of the Ekiti is an off-cycle state for the Guba election. So I said, okay, my own primaries, I also dedicate some time to supporting the party for the Guba election. So that's why I did that January to June. And then after that, I can come back into professional life, do something again until the general election. So, really, all the work I've been doing is just basically meeting with delegates, meeting with leaders, trying to call and cultivate their support, so that it's an incredibly tasking and, emotionally, mentally. So talking about intellectually, it's not tasking at all. There's nothing at this point, nothing intellectual going on, right? So far, in all the meetings, everybody I've gone to meet, nobody has ever asked me, what are your plans or what's your mind?
Okay, that's slightly worrying, Simi.
But that's the state of things. They honestly don't care about that, right? So it's not about, so there's been, in terms of the actual brain work that goes in, it's been nothing, it's been like zero on that end, right? It's mainly about, cultivating relationships and pacifying people. It's like every day there's a new problem to deal with. There's one petty thing. Somebody's upset, you didn't tell them about something. Somebody's upset, there was a meeting they didn't hear about. Somebody's upset about what somebody else did to them and how it somehow affects you. And all of that. And on a regular day from like 6:30 a.m., I'm out going to meet people because I have to catch them before they go to the farm. So I go to their houses one after the other, sit down with them, introduce myself, this is what I'm going for, and all that, get their support. Then, during the middle of the day, we'll have meetings with some groups, just to, and maybe pull some words together, have meetings with the delegates. There are also like some pockets of leaders that you have to meet with. Then by evening, I have to start again with the visits to each person. And it literally rinse and repeats. I have to be in touch with them. Somebody called me one time and said, I haven't seen me. And like, we've not seen you in a while. And this was because the person was so used to me. I was always stop by their shop and sit down and gist. It was just like a space of 3 or 4 days that they hadn't seen. But because I'd gotten busy with the Guba election, the work for the Guba election. So it's that sort of thing, like almost like every 2 days, every 3 days, you have to go around each ward and ensure that you're in their face. So it's
visible.
And then the other part is money. Yeah, when you're calling meetings, when you're going to visit people, it's money. Yeah, you're dropping 10,000, 5,000, 2,000 here for people. The money is so important. So I had a meeting, as I think I was like about 15 per people that came to that meeting. And I just gave them snacks and drinks. And I didn't give them any transport money at the end of the meeting, right? And because we figured that it was just, at least all of those people that came to that meeting, each person had maybe in the space of 2 weeks before that meeting, gotten at least 30K each from me.
Wow.
Over at least, and that's at least over, different interactions. So, but this one meeting, figured, okay, come on, let's just try it. The meeting had barely ended when calls started flying up and down. They were complaining that, they should teach me how to treat people. I mean, it was in Yoruba, like, you understand that? So I mean, calls that said people they were really upset.
I see. So we can't get away from money politics. That's what you're saying.
Get away from it. And one person even said that that she didn't even have money to go back from that meeting. So it's a mix of two things. There's actually deep poverty in the land. This person did not have money, 200 naira to take a bike to go back. So I had to just get money that evening. I went to broadcast and I went around all of who that came again. I gave them 1,000 naira each. And so there was one person that I sent the money to them through someone else. And later, the person that gave them the money came back to tell me. I said, okay, I've delivered the money. She said, this particular person said, we're so happy to get the 1,000 that as the person left my shop, the person went to go and buy gari and fish. I said, I have something to feed my family with. Wow. So she said, I just gave her extra money. I said, please give this person. Wow. So it's really that poverty. And there's the part of them also not thinking beyond.
What if you need gari and fish for today? Then you have to get that gari and fish.
Exactly. Yeah. So I don't blame them sometimes. I'm like, people really need to survive. People are poor. People are suffering. So you really can't blame them. And then there's the other part. So what they also say is that, we will take everything we can take from you now.
Absolutely, because we won't see you again.
Exactly. So me, I'm coming here and telling them, I will be different. You will see me and all of that. But they can't can't bank on my words, or until I get there, then they'll say, okay, she indeed said so, and she did so. But so far, everyone who they've elected has done that. They've gotten them into office, and the people have turned their backs, and you don't see them again. So all they know is that, we're going to get everything we can get from you now. So, but my journey has been pretty good. So March 25, we had a pre-primary contest. And I won that. So technically, in that sense, I'm the party, or maybe not technically, but in a way, I'm the party's candidate for my seat now. Okay. I know that was something I won. So March 20. So there were 6 of us in the race. I was the only woman, and there were 5 men. So the leader of the party, Fayoshe, and the state expos, they called all aspirants to that week. They called all of us to Ado. And then just so that they wanted to make things very fast so that people don't waste a lot of time and money on the campaign trail. Like, let's just do everything before the actual primary, as the national had said. So they did that for every LGA, all the different seats. So we had, and so what they were asked, as they told all the 5 men that came out in my LGA or in my constituency and said, between the 5 of you, go and do your own, go and do a contest first, and whoever wins will come and face me. So we went back home to Ikere. It was that same March 25. They did the primary. Out of those 5 people, two stepped down and didn't come out at all. Then the other 3 people stood for the election. 1 person, of course, won. So the 2 of us went to Ado for the actual contest, and I won at that stage. It was 15 to just 30 people were involved in that, just 30 delegates. 2 or 3 people didn't show up, right? So I had 15 votes, the other guy had 12. So I won that hands down. So I technically became the consensus candidate. So, but unfortunately, 2 weeks after, somebody just came up and said, she didn't accept what the party had done, that she was still going to contest, and she is well within her rights to do so. Even though she's kicking against what the party had done, she was around the first day they called us to Ado for that meeting, and then she didn't show up for the next 2 days when they did the actual contest. And then you come back 2 weeks after and say, you don't support that. So apparently, because she's Tony Olumilo at Mark, she has a child with David Mark, and she says she's married to Mark. So she's like, oh, I'm the wife of the former of David Mark and all that. I'm going to use money to buy this election. So she has just come with that, and like, oh, she's not going to accept what happened and all of that. The rumors going around is that, oh, she was hoping, she had expected that she would just be handed that seat.
Okay.
So I wasn't very out, but people knew me, like, so, and I had done a lot of stuff in the communities all through last year, for example, so I'm very much pro tech. Like, I had done the training for teachers to upskill ICT teachers. I've started a STEM club in about 6 schools that's going on right now for students. So, and then I had done a training for about 55 women on advert making, giving like some business grants. So all of that, I've been doing all of that since last year. So people knew me, but because I'm not a loud person. So yeah, so I guess they didn't know that there was somebody else who wanted to run. So she had just assumed that she would be handed the ticket because of the connections she had. But then I came in and I literally was fighting and I was doing all the work. So the party leadership couldn't do that at that point. Like, this person is here. And like they said, they weren't going this time around, that they weren't going to impose any candidates. And Ikere was ready to fight and say, for Ikere, it should be an actual contest. So that was why that happened, and I won her. And then she came 2 weeks after and all that. So for me, that's the problem. That's the problem I'm dealing with now. So if she did not come out, I would have been very fine. There are 26 state assembly seats in Ikere. Out of those 26, I'm the only one that I know of that has an opponent. So they did the same thing across all the LGAs. So all the candidates are known. So what it would have been will be that on the actual day of the primary, it will have just been an affirmation. Yeah. And so on the day of that, the contest we did, that was also money. I had to mobilize people. I think I gave each person, I gave each person that voted for me 20,000 naira transport. That's not counting all the things that I had done for them, the meetings and all that before that. So that's where we stand now. But so I have the upper hand of being the party's recognized candidate, but the primary still has to happen now that she's insisting that she's going to come out, and that's May 18. I've also now, as the party's candidate, so the party treats me as the candidate, as the state party at the state level, are the candidates. So when there's work to be done for the goodbye elections, we're involved. We have to go out with the gubernatorial candidates for campaigns, for rallies, and all that. So there's also all of that still going on. So like, I'm working on 2 ends. I'm still working to ensure that I don't lose the ticket that I have gotten while supporting the party. And supporting the party also means a lot of money on my end. Like, we had a rally on Thursday. I had to mobilize people. Mobilization is money.
I see, yes.
Money. You have to print posters for the governor. Like, you have to put out billboards to support the party and all of that. And I'm still doing my ward rounds, visiting leaders. And there's, like I said, there's always one fight to sort out every day. Somebody will be angry that, oh, one of the people working with me did something to them. I have to go and beg and all of that. And there are caucuses. Some people are upset at those that they shouldn't have supported me. You have to go and appeal and beg and beg and beg. It's just, I said that the amount of kneeling and begging I've had to do in just the space of 3 months is more than I've ever had to do in my entire life.
Wow.
Like, I think there was 1 week where I was like, I'm done. Like, if I stay one more moment with, I'm probably just going to yell and just scream somebody's head up and say, see, just take your vote up and everything. Because it got to me like, come on, why do I have to beg you people so much? Like, I'm here literally to do good. Like, I don't need this. I'm just here to help fix our society. So I think I had to take a week off. That's like the only time I've taken time off the campaign trail, and thankfully it was around the Easter period. So I just told my that I have to go do some work. So I just took an entire week off. If not, like, I was about to explode, because if it's too much, like, why am I being put through the ringer? Like, it was just simple. But I came back after that, and like I said, I'm determined and ready to do everything I can do to secure this thing. So that's been the journey so far. So May 18 is my venture priorities. Like I said, she has, or fortunately for her, unfortunately for me, she has the David Mark money. I mean, she's saying, oh, she's going to pay all the delegates, going to mobilize them with 100,000 naira to vote for her. So we're just trying to fight against that and see what we can show up, get people. So aside the fact that I have the party support, my constituency is split into two communities. My community has 4 wards, has 2 wards. So there's the sentiment of that 2 wards cannot come and collect what's 4 wards already own, right? There's that. And so the part that technically that seat should be coming to my own community, because there was a time where it was to be the time of my community, and Fayoshe had taken the seats taking the ticket from the person who was running my community and going to give it to somebody in their own community. So there's all of that sentiment. Party leaders and elders in my LGA have really come up to work on it. It's been amazing. It's been very surprising. Like, I mean, you see elderly 80 plus, 70 plus, maybe they're like, no, we're going to work with, we're going to ensure that she doesn't lose this case. So
like you've done the work, Simi. So I think it's fair you get that support. It does sound like, you've moved there, you've gone around, you've actually done the work, So this is the grassroots work that we've been speaking about, right? So well done. You've really done a lot of great work.
So everything points to me getting the ticket, but the work doesn't end until the final moment. The work doesn't end. They have to love fundraising because, well, even if everybody works, like I said, there's poverty in the land. So everybody wants to give some 200,000 just to vote for an assembly seat. Well, some people will be swayed, and it's just what it is.
Yeah, absolutely. So on that point, I love your passion, your commitments, the work that you've done. So I'll be donating to your campaign. Tell me, how can others follow and support you?
Well, really, at this moment, it's money. That's all. For now, it's money, or maybe not just money, because like I said, I have 2 areas I'm spending on for my own permit and also to support the gubernatorial campaign. I have to do that as an aspirant. So it could be, aside just sending money directly, there's posters to be printed, there's billboards to be made, there's banners, all of those things, there are t-shirts, there are caps to be printed, just to give people all the pride of life. So however that can come, all well and good. At this point, I would say we don't have every need for things like cars, all of that, especially because mine is just within the state of 20. And so those are things that I have taken off by myself that I'm fine with. So like I said, the biggest thing is money. And the other part is, if there are people who are in Ekiti State who can put pressure on leaders just to ensure that the ticket remains with me. So I know I've spoken with a few prominent people who are from Ekiti State. Like, I'm exploring every opportunity. Anyone who has any influence on leaders within Ekiti in general, you never know who can talk to somebody, can talk to somebody to ensure that you get that help. So that's it. So that's it for me. So the money, which is the biggest. And I think generally at the point of the primaries, especially for young aspirants, the money is the biggest thing you can help anybody with. Somebody has literally approached me to be my godfather, and it has even become almost like a point of the threat, like,
oh wow,
that, oh, you're not coming close enough. In my mind, I'm like, I don't want to, I don't want to be beholden to you. I appreciate all the support, everything, but I refuse to be beholden to one person. So if that's happening to me, I can imagine it's happening to other people. If they say, oh, this person is fantastic, this person she can do a good job, or she looks like she knows what she's doing. Okay, like it has been an old hard thing, like, and they were telling me, you have to give your blind loyalty. When you give blind loyalty, you get blind support. I'm like, okay, but so I don't be trying to distance myself, but at this point, there's only so much I have to be very careful, because they're my leaders in the party, so I respect them. I admire maybe not admire, but the journey they've been on. But I'm very careful to avoid being beholden to somebody. So for young aspirants, we need that support to ensure that we don't get to the point where you accept support from where you should not accept it from. For me, if it gets to that point, I'd rather step out, but at least I think I'd rather step out. But sometimes you might just wait that, for the greater good. So, but it's just best never to get to that point where you have to choose between the devil and the deep blue sea.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll do our best to support you, and hopefully you don't have to have those difficult choices. But thank you so much, Simi. It's been really good connecting and hearing your story. Like I said, I'll share the links for people to donate, and I'll be donating myself. And I really wish you all the best.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.